Good morning. Welcome to Thursday Chapel. This is our Be Still day of the week, and I'm so glad you're here. My name is Irene Kraegel. I'm the director at the Center for Counseling and Wellness. And one of the things I do in my role is I lead a mindfulness group. I invite all of you to join me. We have a new section starting up next Tuesday. And if you're at this chapel today, it might be that you're someone who enjoys stillness and silence, and that's what we really explore in our mindfulness group together through the Counseling Center. Some of you picked up a paper on the way in. We may have run out. There are a lot of you, which is great. No worries if you don't have one, because you'll be able to use any piece of paper to debrief our practice together at the end. If you did get a paper, you'll see there is a QR code there and some information about that mindfulness group through the Counseling Center, and you can also find out more on our website. Just to introduce myself a little bit, I'm a psychologist by training. And I also really love Jesus, and I found that there are such cool ways to bring those passions together. One of them is through the practice of Christian mindfulness. This is something that I teach to students, but I also write about and I speak about. So I'm really thrilled at the opportunity to spend 3 weeks with you here in Thursday Chapel practicing Christian mindfulness together. So you might be familiar with mindfulness a bit. Anybody here heard of mindfulness or practiced it at all? Oh, a lot of you, that's great. If you have no idea what it is, no worries. The idea of mindfulness is ultimately learning to pay attention, really learning to notice what's present for us in the present moment. Our mind tends to move a lot into the past and a lot into the future. Probably even since you sat down here, you've already thought quite a bit about things that have already happened and things that are coming up. So during this time, we get to practice pulling our mind back to the present, noticing what's right here. This is a deeply Christian practice because Jesus reminded us a lot to pay attention. He loved to say, anybody with ears, hear. This is one of his sayings, right? Like, use your ears. Or anybody with eyes to see, see. And that forms a foundation for our practice together today. We'll be doing a mindful grounding practice. We'll be grounding ourselves in our senses, noticing what is here. And the good news is that God is here. God isn't just somebody that we think about or have theologies about. We also are in God's presence. There's a relationship there. And God is literally in this space with us right now. So as we pay attention to our physical sensations today, we'll be doing that in God's presence together. And we'll see how God shows up for you, for us, in that practice. One of the things about mindfulness in particular is that we are doing our best to have our experiences directly instead of through that filter of thinking about our experiences. So for example, you might notice right now a particular temperature that you're experiencing in your body, and you might have a label for that. Maybe chilly or warm, whatever that is. And you might even have a judgment about that, like I'm too cold or I'm too warm. And so mindfulness is a bit different than those judgments and those labels, and that we're just noticing directly that experience of temperature, being curious about what that feels like. This kind of practice from a psychological perspective is helpful in reducing our stress, our anxiety. It reduces feelings of sadness and loneliness and depression. So this is why we use it in the mental health field. It's often used just as a secular practice, but we have the benefit in a Christian context to also use it to quiet our minds and our bodies so that we can connect with God in the present moment as well. So if you're new to meditation or contemplation, I invite you to explore it. Feel free to ask me questions about it afterwards. This is something that Jesus modeled for us by frequently withdrawing to quiet places to pray, to be alone. He often went up on the mountaintop. We don't have any mountains here in West Michigan. We have some dunes not too far away. But this is sort of a mountaintop for all of us, a place we can step away and be removed and enjoy the stillness and the quiet. Today we'll be doing grounding. Next Thursday, we'll be doing a sitting practice together where we kind of focus on our breathing. The week after that, we'll be doing a loving kindness blessing practice together. So each week will be a little bit different, but all grounded in Christian mindfulness. So there's no one way that you have to sit or be as we go through this grounding practice today. I will invite you as we go along to have kind of an upright position, to have your feet flat on the floor, to have your hands in your lap. You're welcome to experiment with that now. Just see if you can find sort of a comfortable spot. The most important thing is that you're comfortable. So modify any of the things I instruct you to do today in any way that's comfortable for you, both physically and emotionally. But some people find it helpful to get a straightness in their spine that has a bit of a sense, brings a sense of dignity into your body. You might imagine the top of your head reaching up toward the sky. And as we start the practice, I will be ringing this bell, which you may or may not be familiar with this type of bell. I use it just because it's a really beautiful sound, and it helps us tune into our sense of hearing. So you'll hear me instruct you in a little bit to let your attention, your sense of hearing, rest on the sound of the bell, and then we'll also close our practice with that as well. Whatever happens during this practice, know that the goal here is just to notice. You don't have to get calm. You don't have to get relaxed. You don't have to change anything. We're simply being in God's presence, becoming more aware of what's in our bodies, our minds, our emotions, and that will give you some clues as you go through the day about how you might take care of yourself moving forward. So enough talking. As you settle into this seated posture here, I invite you to close your eyes if you would like. If you would prefer to keep your eyes halfway closed, halfway open, you can just kind of gaze softly down towards the floor as well. And you might want to take a couple deep breaths as you settle in here, noticing the sensation of the breath coming into your body and the sensation of the breath leaving your body. Using those deep breaths just to open up your lungs, open up your chest a bit as you settle into the quiet of this place. And as I ring the bell, listening to the sound of the ring all the way from the beginning until it trails off and you can no longer hear it. Listening now to these words from Psalm 46, which call us to the stillness in God's presence. God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. Therefore, we will not fear, though the earth should change, though the mountains shake in the heart of the sea, though its waters roar and foam, though the mountains tremble with its tumult. Be still and know that I am God. And so resting here in this stillness for a moment, in this silence. Be still and know that I am God. And so allowing your breathing to be natural, to come all on its own, given by God, moment to moment. No need to count it or control it in any way. Just settling into this natural rhythm of the breath. And you might notice a particular area where the sensations of your breath are the most accessible. So maybe this is in your chest as your lungs expand and contract. Maybe it's your diaphragm moving up and down in your abdomen. Or maybe you notice the breath coming in right underneath your nose there, cool as it comes into the body, and then warm as it leaves the body, warmed by the lungs. This amazing creation of God, your body sitting here, breathing, all on its own. God breathed that first breath into the first human so long ago, and it's been passed down one generation to the next, to the next. And here you are carrying this breath today, right here, right now, in this moment. And so just tuning into these physical sensations of breathing, and then expanding your awareness around your breath to become aware of the sense of touch. So noticing, what do you feel on your skin? Perhaps it's the sensations of the chair that your body's resting on. Maybe it's the sensations of air on your skin, the face, the hands, perhaps the top of the scalp. Maybe you notice sensations of clothing touching your body. Seeing if you can have that sensation, that experience of touch directly, outside of the filter of language and thought and interpretation, judgment, just being present to what that feels like. And perhaps you notice sensations inside of your body, blood flow, tingling. Maybe there's warmth, coldness, whatever's here to be felt in your body as God made it right here in this moment. Noticing these sensations moving and changing moment to moment. And if there are areas of the body where there's no sensation at all, then just noticing that. There's no judgment, just being curious about sensations in your body as God made it to be. And if you notice any thoughts coming up regarding physical sensations, perhaps judgments or opinions, if there's any kind of harshness in your self-talk as you tune in with your physical experience, seeing if it's possible to smile at yourself and to say, okay, that's how it is right now. Bringing your attention back to these direct physical experiences. Scripture says that your body is fearfully and wonderfully made, just as it is. And then shifting your attention to sounds. So utilizing this sense of hearing, perhaps noticing sounds inside of the room. Maybe there are sounds from outside of the room. Perhaps there are even sounds that are accessible to you from your own body, the sound of breathing, the breath coming in and out. Noticing the tendency we all have to label sounds about whether we like them or not. And seeing if it's possible instead to just be present to sounds. Sounds coming and going. And perhaps labeling this experience as hearing. Hearing. Tuning into this sensation of sound that's been given to you by God. And you don't need to search for sounds, you're just noticing them. Becoming aware that you are part of a bigger world that's buzzing with sound, with activity, that you are part of this whole that God has made. Simply being present to sounds coming and going. No need to judge them. Just being curious about what's available to you. And then returning that awareness back into your body to become grounded again in the sense of your body touching the chair, touching clothing, the air, feeling the weight of your body sitting here on the chair, the earth holding you up. All of this held in God's hand. And then if you choose, if your eyes are closed, you can just gently open them a little bit and take in some colors and shapes. So perhaps noticing the tendency that we all have to want to search for certain sights or label or judge. Instead, seeing if you can tune in directly with your sense of sight, taking in any shapes and colors. Perhaps lines, nuances of shading. Maybe there are points of light or dark, different reflections of the light. Again, not labeling or judging, just noticing. Staying present to the sense of sight as best as you can. Perhaps noticing visual details. Receiving what God has put here for you in this moment. And then if you'd like, you're invited to close your eyes once again or keep them halfway closed. And perhaps checking in with your body here, taking a deep breath if you would like, recentering your posture on your chair. And as we go through this, noticing that your mind is likely to wander away from the senses, away from the practice, and that's normal. Our minds are constantly shifting and moving. Our brains are endlessly generating thoughts. And so noticing that where your mind has gone to and gently bringing it back once again to the senses in this moment, tuning in with this sense of touch as you rest on the chair, perhaps noticing sensations on the bottom of your feet, at the tips of your fingers, tuning into these physical experiences in this moment. And then just resting once again on the breath, the physical sensations of your breathing. Breathing in and being fully present to that experience of breathing in. Breathing out, being fully present to the experience of breathing out. Seeing if it's possible to stay present to that full cycle of breath. We're just taking this practice one moment at a time, one breath at a time. And then noticing your body as a whole sitting here. Noticing this body that God created and called good at the very beginning. Being present in this place, in this body. Being still here as you know that God is God. Be still and know that I am God. You are God's creation, and God loves you. So resting here in this stillness as you listen to the sound of the bell from the very beginning of the ring until it trails off into space and can no longer be heard. And so as we come back to the full room together, feel free to move around a little bit. You can wiggle fingers and toes and stretch if you'd like, whatever feels good. As we come to the end of our time, you are free to go or you're free to stay for a moment and fill out your sheet in terms of what you noticed during that practice. That can give you some clues about how to take care of yourself for the rest of the day. Thanks for being here. I'll see you next week on Thursday. Go in peace.